We ready to start, Jason?
Yeah. Welcome everyone. Hi everyone. My name is Jason Moody. I work at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and I work in the pre-college programs department and admissions. So I work on middle and high school programs here at UT. But I'm going to turn it over to Jan. She's going to get us started and tell us a little bit about why we're all here tonight.
Well, welcome. My name is Jan Coley, and I am chairman of the board for the Southern Appalachian Science and Engineering Fair. And so some of you that might be new to us, we call it SACEF. So when you hear somebody say SACEF, you'll know what we're talking about. And this virtual science club was a vision of ours last year to maybe try to give support to students, teachers, parents, organizational leaders such as scouts or anyone that would be working with students in after school programs, boys and girls clubs. And so we started this virtual science club last year, and we're so excited to have it kicking off again for the second year. And we're going to be, tonight is really an organizational meeting so that you'll understand what's going to be happening in the future when you come back. We've got some great speakers lined up for you and a lot of great mentors that you'll learn more about in a few minutes. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Jason. Excuse me. He is, like I said, the program coordinator, and to Kim Gwynn, who is our fair director.
Good evening, everyone. I am delighted to talk to you today about the SACEF. As Jan said, it's the Southern Appalachian Science and Engineering Fair. We are more the fair. We've committed ourselves to science education at all levels. Many of us on the board are associated with the University of Tennessee, but not everyone is associated with the University of Tennessee. So you'll get a nice, diverse variety of professional scientists, engineers who are actively engaged in scientific inquiry. So we represent the 23 county area of East Tennessee. And Jason, if you'll change the slide. And we are a scientific outreach activity of the university, but we are primarily sponsored by the community. We have lots of donors, and so you'll hear us talking about donors a lot and how much we appreciate them. And we are divided into two competitions, the middle school or the junior division and the high school or the senior division. And middle schoolers do not compete against high schoolers. And we have everybody from people who are just entering their first science fair, doing their first science fair project, to people who've been doing it for 4 or 5 years. So it is a great honor to be part of this fair, and also to help guide you into looking at what kind of projects can be done at the fair. If it has something to do with science, engineering, or mathematics, we probably have a category that will cover it. So you see here, there's, I think, is it 22 categories, Jason, that we have? And we have, is it 22?
It's okay. A lot. I don't know the exact number.
So we have lots of, so we, for the purpose of the Virtual Science Club, have divided them into 4 general categories. We've divided them into human sciences, natural sciences, engineering and math, and physical sciences. And Jason will tell you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Most of you, I would say almost everybody on this call, not everybody, but almost everybody on this call was not born when the first science SACEF happened. So next year we will be 70 years old. So it'll be a big celebration next year. So anyway, this is our 69th SACEF, but this will be our first in person after being virtual for 2 years SACES. So we've done a lot to get some things changed up. But we've been doing it. We've done the science fair virtually, but this year we've decided that we'd add a few things, like keeping some of the positive things that we had found out happen in the virtual arena. So students will have a chance to compete virtually if they choose, but most we would expect will be at the student union for the competition.
All right, and I'll take over from here. Again, I work at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, coordinator of multiple pre-college programs on campus at UT, one of which is what you're here for tonight. This is the Virtual Science Club. It's year 2 of us doing this. And this is the first meeting of year 2, so you're getting on really early. So a couple things about it. There's going to be 2 meetings every single month from now starting through February, which is leading up to the SACEF fair that Kim talked about. They'll always be on a Tuesday, always at 7 p.m. Eastern time, so 6 o'clock for any friends over in the Central Time Zone. There will be a breakout session for the first meeting of every month. That's what we're doing today. So we're going to break out into separate rooms later this evening. And then the second meeting every month, so later in the month, we'll always have a guest speaker come talk to you, and we'll introduce who that's going to be in 2 weeks, and you'll hear a little bit about her. The Virtual Science Club, it's for grade 6 through 12 students, so middle and high school students across the state of Tennessee, and for their STEM teachers and educators as well. So anybody and everybody's free to attend for free. Take a look at that QR code if you want to read a little bit more. That'll take you to a link or a page online that shows all the different dates coming up. And we'll continue to add information on that page as we get through each meeting and we progress through the months. And in addition to the upcoming meetings, you'll actually see recordings from meetings that you may have missed. So we'll post those there. So if you miss one, or there's a guest speaker you really wanted to hear, but you weren't able to attend and see, then check that page there and you'll see recordings of each meeting. I'm going to talk a little bit more about SACEF and just tell you about where it's happening and what's happening this year. So Kim kind of gave you the history of SACEF. For 2022, it's going to be a hybrid fair, meaning that it will be hosted on the UTK campus in the Student Union Ballroom in that building right there. It'll be done in person as it's been done traditionally. So if anybody's on this call and you've seen it before in person, it's going to be like that. But in addition to that, if there's any students that want to compete in this fair, they are welcome to do so virtually, and that's up to them. So if either you can't travel or you don't want to travel, or you'd rather just do it online, that's easier for you, that's fine, you can do that. I will say, I know we have folks from across the state. I meant to say this before, but this is for those 23 counties that Kim mentioned. But if you are interested in your fair that's affiliated with the International Science and Engineering Fair, you are more than welcome to let us know. We could try to connect you to your local regional fair as well. All right, and then on March 31st, 2 days later, we will host the award ceremony in that room right there that you're seeing, the Cox Auditorium on the UT campus. And again, there will be an in-person portion. You can sit down and watch it in those chairs, or you can watch online. We'll have it streaming online as well. And for registration, I'm not going to go through all this right now tonight. I want us to move on pretty quickly. But I do want to note that if you are interested in entering the fair this year, the registration does open at the end of this month. So September 30th is when registration opens. And to read a little bit more about that, I would scan this here and use that link. It gives you information on how to do that. We'll talk about that in future meetings a little bit more in depth. And we may even have a teacher meeting later if any teachers want to learn a little bit more about registration and the fair in general. All right, and that is it for me. I'm excited now because we're going to move on to hear from Jennifer Tyrell. Jennifer is, I hope I get this right, Jennifer. You work in STEM workforce development for ORISE, the Oak Ridge Institute for Science and Education. Is that correct?
That's right. ORISE is
Yes.
managed by Oak Ridge Associated Universities, ORAU, who is my employer. Thank you, Jason. I'm really excited to talk to you all today. I not only work in STEM education, but prior to my involvement here at SACEF on the board as the treasurer, I was a teacher. I taught high school biology for many years and took lots of students to SACEF. And before that, participated in SACEF as a student. So I have been sitting in your seats, and I'm excited to talk to you a little bit today about your SACEF projects. As a former teacher, I would like to invite you students to turn your cameras on if your bandwidth allows so that I can see your face and see your nonverbal communication. If you want to nod or shake your head or thumbs up, that's so nice for me to know if you're following along with me or if you're completely lost. Hey everyone, I love those waves. Nonverbal communication is just what we needed in here. Yes. And if you want to have a little bit of verbal communication, I would also like to invite you to answer questions. You are welcome when I ask a question to unmute and speak, or if you don't want to unmute and speak, answer it in the chat, because I want to see a little bit about what you know. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over here and talk to you a little bit about getting started with your SACEF project. Now, you are here because you're into science, you're into STEM, and you want to do a project for the science fair. At least I'm making that assumption with this presentation. So you all probably know about the scientific method. And I am not going to take the time to go through the steps of the scientific method because you've got that. And you know that you're going to follow the scientific method or the engineering design process, if you're one of these folks who's going to be going into the engineering breakout room later, to go through the steps to make a good science fair project. What I am going to talk to you about are some of the pitfalls along the way, some of the common mistakes that people make for each step of this process to try to help you avoid those and help you start thinking about some of the things that you can do. So first thing, if we're going to do a SACEF project, what do you need? Verbal, nonverbal? Sophia, I love your hand raised. What do we need?
An idea.
Yeah, we need an idea. I see a question, a problem in the chat. That's exactly right. And how many of you already have a SACEF idea? You can just raise your hand if you have one. All right, couple hands, couple of maybe. I got a question. Well, a good question is the best thing that you can have for a SACEF project. But how do we know if it's a good question? What makes a good question? I got a couple of things to talk to you about for what makes a good question. First of all, something that people don't already know the answer to. If you're coming to us with a science fair board explaining something that everybody already knows, no good. Try to think outside of the box. Along those same lines, you didn't find it by Googling science fair projects. If you didn't raise your hand earlier, you may be tempted to Google science fair projects, science fair project ideas. The people who are going to be judging your projects have been doing it for many, many years, and they've seen all those already, and they're not very impressive. So avoid Googling it. The other thing we need to make sure is that we have only one independent variable. Okay, what's an independent variable?
Something that's
Yeah. Oh, who said it? Go ahead.
something that's changed on purpose.
That's right. Something that we're changing on purpose. So we only want to change one thing at a time. Your project may end up being complex and you have multiple independent variables that you change in different trials. But for the sake of where we're at right now, let's think about having one independent variable, one thing that we're going to measure and change. That means everything else should stay the same. A common question that you might get asked in SACEF is to define your independent variables, this thing that we change. And then we've got this other type of variable that we talk about when we talk about independent variables? Anybody know what that one is? Yeah, Sophia.
The dependent variable?
The dependent variable. Audra, can you tell us what that one is?
It's something that changes as a result of the independent variable.
Beautiful. It changes. It's the thing that you measure. It's the thing that changes. And we've got to see what is going to happen whenever we make the changes that we choose to change. Okay, and since we're only going to have one independent variable, everything else has to stay the same. We need to control for those things. Everything else needs to stay constant. Keep that in mind as you're designing your experiment, and you're going to be doing well. The last thing I want to talk to you about a good question is that it needs to have a measurable answer. Measurable doesn't necessarily mean with numbers. Numbers are good. Numbers are great. But if you can't measure it with numbers, come up with a way to measure it. A qualitative scale. Can you measure color? Can you talk about the quality of something? Is it healthy or not healthy? Come up with a scale. It's going to be better if you have a measurable answer. What are you trying to figure out? If your engineering projects, right? You're going to know if your prototype worked by some action that it's going to take, that you're going to be able to measure and tell us if it did it or not. After we're done with our question, we've got to do research. Don't leave this part out. And you all have it a lot easier than I did when I was a student, because you've got the internet in your hand all the time. And I had it a lot easier than a lot of other people on this call when they were students who had to go down to the library and get out encyclopedias. At least I could use a computer in the classroom. But remember that the internet is not your only tool. Internet research is nice, but a bibliography with just a bunch of URLs on it is fine, but show us that you're a little more dedicated than that. Personal interviews are a great way to get information. And if you don't know anybody who's working on something that's related to your project, the great news is the people in this chat room right now do. All of these folks are here to help you and connect you with other people who are experts. And we would love for you to set up through Jason, a call with some experts to talk to you about your project, give you a little bit more background information. And you can cite that. You should say that you had an interview with Dr. So-and-so from the University of Tennessee. Keep a record of your research. I've seen students who at the last second, when they're putting their science fair board together, are trying to go back in their internet history and see what they looked up. Have you done that before? It's no good. Keep a list. Keep a list as you go. A lab notebook is your friend, and we'll talk more about those in a minute. I'm gonna keep us moving because you already know the scientific method. So we get to our hypothesis. What's that? Go ahead, Zoe.
Hypothesis is an educated guess based off of observations that we've made.
I like that you added the rest of that, because I see this guess over here in chat. Oh, and guess makes me so sad. It's not just a guess. We can't just guess. We are making an educated guess based off of observations, based off of our research. And since you're not just guessing, tell the judges that you're not just guessing. Tell them what research you did that led you to make that guess, that hypothesis. What got you there? One way to make sure that you're including that research is to use the if, then, because. You guys have heard of this, right? Some nonverbal nods, I like it. Maybe your research doesn't fit into an if, then, because. Maybe your hypothesis doesn't fit that model, and that's okay. We'll talk to you about some of those too. But it's an easy way to make sure you have what you need. If I do this experiment, describe it, then here are the results I think I will get because of some research that I've done. Now, in an attempt not to take away any ideas that you might come up with, I have grabbed 3 hypotheses that are for very bad SACEF projects, but model this if then because for you. If 7th and 8th graders complete the same math problems, that's what we're going to do, that's our project, then the 8th graders will have more answers correct. Why? Because they've studied math for 1 year longer than the 7th graders. We've got a reason. Better if you cited your source in there, but we've got a reason. Is that a good SACEF project? No, 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 no good, because I could Google good science fair project and get this one. No good. But it's a good hypothesis. If dry bread and moist bread are left in bags for 2 weeks, that's what we're going to do. Then the moist bread will grow more mold more quickly than the dry bread. That's the result we expect, because mold is a living thing and organisms need water to survive. All right, giving us a reason. Don't forget your because. That's the moral of the story here. Then you get to the fun part. You get to experiment. As you design your experiment, the mentors here at Virtual Science Club want to help you figure out how to design your experiment and make it the best it can be. A large sample size is great. How many projects have we seen as judges where somebody had 3 plants and they had a different treatment for their 3 plants, and they drew a conclusion and said, yeah, putting coffee on this plant is the best thing ever. Caffeine must help the plant. Or that plant was just bigger than the others and healthier because they only poured coffee on it for 3 days. Think about sample size when you do this. If you're growing plants, grow lots of plants. If you're dealing with people, get lots of people. If you are running something through a maze, do it 10 times, 20 times. Repeat your experiment. The more times you can do it, the more likely it is that your results are accurate. You want to be accurate. You want to show that, yeah, this treatment that I've done actually made a difference. And you'll be able to show that better if you do your experiments again and again. Large sample size, repeat your experiment. We talked about lab notebooks very briefly. Keep a good record of what you actually do. Keep a good record of what you actually do, not what you thought you might do. Write out your procedure for what you thought you might do. But then if something happens in the lab, if something happens while you're doing your experiment and you do it a little differently, you need to make sure you record what you actually did. I ran out of cardboard, so I used poster board. Record it. That's okay. Let's write it down because we need to know what the problem was. Photos are great. You know that because you guys are sharing photos and taking photos all the time. But for a SASEF project, we don't want your beautiful face in any of your photos. Take pictures of your experiment. Your hands may be in it. Other parts of the experiment are good to picture, but try not to include your beautiful face because we don't want that plastered on your poster board. And again, don't forget those control variables. Once you've got some data, you present it on your poster, put it in a data table, put it in a graph. Show us your data in an easy to read fashion. Make sure you have a title on your graph. Make sure you label your X and Y axis and show us photos. It helps the judges to understand what you did if you make it easy for us to understand. So if you can't make a graph in Excel because you don't have access to Excel, you can use Google Sheets and it's completely free. You can also hand draw a graph if you would like to, if you're the creative and colorful type. And yeah, Zoe, precision. Okay, we're talking about accuracy and you want to get in precision. Good work to your science teacher. So don't forget your graphs. You need your graphs, you need your data tables. Present that information to us. Last thing, we've got all of our data and we're going to write a conclusion. Do your data support your hypothesis? That's what you're telling us in the conclusion, but not just my hypothesis was supported. How? How was it supported? Why was it supported? Explain it. What did you learn in your research that might explain why you got the results you did experimentally? Tell us. This is several sentences, not just one. I threw this picture up of this, this quad chart from last year that we used because I started looking at the conclusion and noticed, oh, wow, that's several sentences. Don't write us just a 1-sentence conclusion. My hypothesis was correct. Why was it correct? What happened? Do you think it was actually correct or was this a fluke? Was there something in the environment that affected it? Tell us about it. So, okay, those are some quick pitfalls, things that you can potentially go wrong, things that you can watch for while you're working on your SASEF project. So the next step, the thing that we have to do, the thing that we hope to help you with over the next couple of weeks is identifying that problem that we talked about at the beginning. And if you were one of the people who wasn't quite ready to raise your hand and say, yes, I've got an idea, I want you to think about SASEF, think about a science fair project over the next couple of weeks while you're sitting in class. If an idea pops into your head, a question comes into your mind while you're listening to your teacher, but you don't ask it because you think it's kind of weird, write it down. Those can become really great project ideas. We're going to talk to you a little bit more in your breakout rooms about things that you're interested in and try to help you come up with some of these good SASEF project ideas so that you don't just Google good science fair projects. So do me a favor over the next 2 weeks and think about those things, write down your questions, and let's try to come up with some projects that are interesting to you and are going to be really interesting to your judges. And when we go into our breakout rooms in a little while, you'll get the chance to ask all the questions that might be rolling through your head right now. I think I get the pleasure of turning it back over to Leah to let her talk to us a little bit more. Leah is also one of the board members here of SASEF. Leah, let's see if I can stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you.
Thank you. So my name is Leah Berry. I'm vice president at a science and engineering company in Oak Ridge called Strategy. And we work at Oak Ridge National Lab, among other sites. And I get the pleasure of introducing our mentors that in a few minutes, you will go into some breakout rooms. And as I call on each one, I'd like them to unmute for a second and introduce themselves a little bit more, tell a little bit about their background. So I'm going to start with Jeff Brookins, who is going to be mentoring in engineering and math.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff. Once again, I'm a fourth year PhD student, so almost done. But a lot of my focus is on engineering, specifically materials. I work a lot in developing metal alloys, but my background is also in biomedical sciences. So I kind of have two hats on that one. But thank you.
Thank you. And in human sciences, Sandra Pena.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, just trying to get unmuted. But my name's Sandra Pena. I'm a master's student at University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I am professionally an infectious disease epidemiologist, and I am doing a master's program in entomology. With the human sciences mentorship that I'll be doing for SASEF this semester. I'm really excited to work with the middle school and high school students and really share some of my background in epidemiology and my love for human sciences.
Thanks, Sandra. And before I introduce our next judge, just looking at his, mentor, looking at his name reminds me that he was a judge this past year. And if we have interested parties on this evening that are interested in being judges, keep an eye on the website. And we'll talk about it later this year in the Virtual Science Club. Adults that may want to volunteer their time to judge, we would love to have your expertise. So Aaron Onifrak was a judge for us this past year. Aaron, if you can tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Aaron Onifrak. I'm a third-year PhD student in the entomology and plant pathology department at the University of Tennessee. So I study microbiology and plant pathology. So I look at small fungi and bacteria that you have to look at with a microscope to see. And I look at how they affect plants. Behind me is a picture of the disease that I study in black walnut trees, and it's caused by a fungal pathogen or a fungus that can kill the tree. So that's what I research.
Right. And our last mentor is Agustin Kriskowski.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, I am a geologist. I'm finishing my PhD right now at UTK, and I work basically with a lot of rocks and minerals, trying to study and know a little bit more of the ancient oceans compositions in their geologic history in our planet. So I look at rocks in the microscope and minerals in the microscope, and then we do a lot of fun science with that.
Thank you. So for the students out there, I can tell you the ones that were part of the group last year, you know what a treat it is to be able to work with these mentors that are doing this on a day-to-day basis, and just really you get to absorb their knowledge and see, how they continue to learn and teach and work. So it's exciting that we have them working with us. So thank you all again for joining us and being part of the club this year. Jason, I will turn it back to you.
Okay, so now we're gonna move into our breakout rooms. But before we do, I'll let you know we have a little under half an hour. What we'll do is I will open up the breakout rooms and then close them about 5 minutes before 8 o'clock. Because they're gonna all come back in here and we will give away a prize at the end. So somebody that RSVP'd will be getting the robot STEM car kit. So what we're gonna do is when I open up the breakout rooms, you're gonna see an option and you can actually choose which one you want to go into. So just as a reminder, the first one is Jeff. Jeff is gonna be our engineering and math. There's Jeff again, thank you, Jeff. The second was Sandra. Sandra introduced herself. Sandra is human sciences. Third was Aaron, and Aaron is our natural sciences. And then fourth is going to be Augustin, who is going to be our physical sciences. So those are the four options. I will be opening the rooms here in just a moment, but before you go, take just like 1 minute or so, just 1 minute, go find something orange, anything orange, and then bring it back into your breakout room once you go in, and then you can use that as a little icebreaker. Jeff, you got an orange shirt, I like it, yeah. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna open the breakout rooms up, but make sure you go find something orange real quick and bring that into your room with you. Also, if you don't know which room you wanna be in, or you can't get into the room for some reason, just stay back here and we'll help you figure that out.
If only we had an extra 2 minutes.
Oh no, sorry. Sorry, well, keep a pin in that, and in a month y'all can chat again or next time. Okay, well, welcome back everybody. We're going to close this meeting out for the night. We have about 5 minutes left. I am going to share my screen again, and I know everybody's interested to know who's going to win this STEM kit tonight. So this is this little robot car right here. We are going to order this and send this to one of y'all for making it to this meeting tonight. So to win one of these contests, you do have to RSVP in advance and you do have to be here. So I'm going to call a name, and please let me know if you're here. If you don't say anything, I won't know. So I am literally going to do a random number generator. All right, so just Google's helping me right here. And our number is 24, which is Joseph Roop. Joseph, are you here tonight?
I am here.
Joseph, awesome, congratulations. Yeah, round of applause for Joseph. All right, Joseph, I have your email address. I'm gonna send you a message and we'll sort out where we're gonna ship this gift to you.
Alrighty.
Thanks for being here, and we'll continue to do some giveaways like this to students throughout the Virtual Science Club. Before you go, hang on just 1 more minute for me. And I wanna tell you about the next meeting. So reminder, the meeting or the club meets every 2 weeks, or excuse me, not really every 2 weeks, twice per month. So 2 weeks from today, on Tuesday, September 28th at 7 o'clock, same time, that's Eastern time, we're gonna have a guest speaker. So we aren't gonna break out into separate rooms this time. It's gonna be all one room. And our guest speaker is Amy Leviers. And Amy is the director at the Robotics, Automation, and Dance Lab. She's an East Tennessee native, so she's from this area. And she's actually a past Southern Appalachian Science and Engineering Fair participant herself. So she's been through this, she's done the fair. So she's going to tell you about what she does now and her background and how she got to where she is. And she has a pretty cool activity plan too. She's going to cover the use of choreography and dance in robotic system design. So I don't know exactly what it is she's doing, but she's going to have us kind of get up and do, I think, a little bit of movement next week. So make sure that you attend that. Before you go, scan this QR code and you can actually go ahead and RSVP for next week. So you can grab that link now. And that is about it. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you attending the Virtual Science Club, the first one of this year. And we will see you next time.